Cloud Giants.
Today, dear adventurers, our journey ascends to the realms so vast they stretch across the entire world. We rise high into the heavens, where the realms of gods and mortals intertwine, and we arrive at the magnificent empire of the Cloud Giants. Soaring above the clouds, these colossal beings command awe and reverence with their Olympian-like cities that float gracefully among the skies. As masters of air, the Cloud Giants hold prestigious position in the Ordering, ranking just below the most exalted giants, the Storm Giant. Yet, in their own eyes, the Cloud Giants consider themselves to be the true pinnacle of the Ordering, unrivaled in their grandeur and power. Cloud Giants, standing at an impressive 24 feet tall and weighing around 11,500 pounds, these creatures are both of beauty and godlike grandeur. Their skin ranges from a milky white to a light blue, their hair a pure silver or blue with the most iridescent blue eyes that insinuate their otherworldly presence. They are known for their innate magical abilities, particularly related to air, gravity, and weather, which they use to adorn their lives in splendor and power. Cloud Giants are distinguished by their penchant for luxury, often wearing exquisite clothing and jewelry rather than traditional armor, which they prefer to enchant with a protective magic. Another unsavory trait of theirs: they are known for their superiority complex, viewing other creatures as their lessers and indulging in high-stakes gambling. Their lives are characterized by a zest for high-stakes risks and even higher rewards, reflecting their beliefs in facing life's obstacles with joy and skill. Cloud Giant nobility is particularly noted for their elaborate masks, crafted from precious metals and adorned with gemstones, which express their moods and emulate ancient depictions of their patron god, Memnor. Their wealth is so immense that the act of a Cloud Giant giving away an incredibly rare magic item is considered a mere pittance compared to their true fortune. Indeed, if a Cloud Giant were to accidentally drop a coin purse and spill its contents onto the ground, they would disdainfully leave it behind rather than appear poor and desperate by scrambling to retrieve it. Allow me to share with you a tale from a realm far beyond our own, where a grand empire of Cloud Giants reigned supreme, high above the clouds. Below their floating domains lay the humble serfs, whose lives were under the domain of these mighty beings. The Cloud Giants served as rulers and protectors for the humanoid cities and villages beneath them, demanding a mere tribute of 15% of the crop and wealth from all those living below. However, the Cloud Giants became increasingly absorbed in their extravagant lifestyles, their gaze diverted from their protective duties. During this time, the Hill Giant serfs, tasked with collecting the tribute, grew unruly. They took all they could consume and delivered the remainder to the Cloud Giants, leaving the people below to suffer. Farmstead after farmstead was destroyed and ravaged, as these Hill Giants, who were meant to protect the peasants from brigands and other threats, wreaked havoc instead. The common people were powerless to counter such abuses. Then came a troop of adventurers who, upon learning of the plight of the oppressed peasants, set out to confront these Hill Giants. Though their investigation revealed an intriguing truth. The Hill Giants were merely servants of the Cloud Giants, known as the Sky Sovereigns. Though the Hill Giants couldn't pronounce such a big word and instead called them the Big Sky Kings. Through these encounters with the Hill Giants, the adventurers discovered the existence of the Stone Giants, who guarded a swirling tempest in the mountains that served as a bridge to the Sky Lord's realm. With careful diplomacy and assurance of their non-hostility, the adventurers were granted passage by the stone giants. They embarked on a once-in-a-lifetime journey, ascending through the vortex and arriving at a breathtaking sight. A gargantuan sky bridge spanning over 3 miles. This bridge led to a city crafted in marble, gilded with gold, and adorned with statues of pure platinum. It was here that they were confronted by the cloud giant Sentinels, mighty chariot-riding cloud giants with the finest arms crafted by their fire giant cousins. Facing the prospect of being cast off the bridge to their doom, they were spared by a prince named Celestius. Prince Celestius, recognizing their bravery and righteousness for their cause, seen potential in them, the potential to win him favor. So it was then Celestius offered them a chance to serve him as a favor for saving their lives. The adventurers accepted, of course, and through their efforts and battles with the mighty multi-headed beast in a gigantic colosseum, they informed the Cloud Giant King of the Hill Giant's misconduct, and the king swiftly punished the offenders, restoring order to the lands below, bringing justice to the suffering people. So with my closing statement, I would just like to remind you that the next time you see a cloud floating far overhead, it might be more than meets the eye. With this all in mind, let's get right into the 2014 stat block. Jumping in immediately to the 2014 Cloud Giant stat block. High energy today. I'm so ready to get into this. This is my favorite giant out of all the giants in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. So, we're going to look at this template stat block, and I'm going to just kind of give you some words of advice, maybe some role-playing tips, and then we're going to jump into my stat block, and we're going to see what I did better. So starting off, Cloud Giant, huge giant. It's got a 50% chance to be neutral good or neutral evil, which makes them very versatile when you're role-playing them. It's got an armor class of 14, which is, surprisingly, it's natural armor. So Cloud Giants have just this very thick hide, I suppose, but they also are somewhat dexterous, but they don't have a high dex, so I didn't change that in my stat block either. But anyways, we have a hit point pool of 200, we have a speed of 40 feet, that's going to change. I'm going to be updating all of my giant stat blocks to give them a speed of 60 feet because they are very large and their strides are much longer. They should be able to keep up with at least a horse. I got that idea from Dale Kingsmill. Yeah, but anyways, moving on to the stat block. The only thing here in the ability scores that's different, that's important, is 27 strength. That is nearly godlike strength. That's 3 points off of being godlike. So it's just so awesome that Cloud Giants have such a high strength modifier. I'm smirking right now as I look at it because they are my favorite giants. But moving down to the saving throws, let's get through these real quick. We have a plus 10 con, plus 7 wisdom, plus 7 charisma. Look good to me. Insight plus 7, perception plus 7 for the skills. We have a passive perception of 17. They speak common and giant, but the world is your oyster when it comes to languages. You could give them any language proficiency because of how wealthy Cloud Giants are. Challenge rating of 9. That's going to get bumped up crazily when you look at my stat block. We have a proficiency bonus of plus 4. Then we have a keen smell and an innate spell casting. Keen smell grants advantage on wisdom perception checks that rely on smell. We have the innate spell casting spells. We have at will, so these are technically they can cast these as if they are cantrips. So we have detect magic, fog cloud,
and light, and these do not require material components. The Cloud Giant can just cast these as many times as they want, all throughout the day, whenever they want. Spell rules permitting. And then we move into the 3 times a day spells. We have Featherfall, Fly, Misty Step, Telekinesis. They're pretty agile with having Fly and Misty Step. You have to keep that in mind and try to remember that they have that whenever you're fighting high-level player characters with these, because they need to make use of Misty Step, and they are intelligent. So if a wizard is in the back hurling big spells, Misty Step around the barbarian and the fighter right on top of him. Smash him with his Morning Star. Telekinesis is interesting. It said that they are known to control gravity, so I think that's what telekinesis is supposed to represent in the stat block. But moving on. Control Weather and Gaseous Form are both once-a-day abilities, which are really cool. Control Weather is a 7th level spell, if I'm not mistaken, and Gaseous Form is a pretty high-level spell. Control Weather is more of a role-playing ability. It's not really used in combat. You could use it in combat if the players, like, scorch the earth that the Cloud Giant would have to walk through. He could control weather, summon down a rainstorm, put all the fire out. Or the players could beg to a Cloud Giant to help save a burning city, and then the Cloud Giant could make a torrential downpour of rain. The Cloud Giants are very powerful, nearly godlike beings. You have to keep this in mind the whole time when you're role-playing one. We move to the actions, which, you know, it is what it is at this point. I'm used to seeing the giant stat blocks not having anything interesting other than a rock and a melee attack, so let's, without further ado, move on into my stat block, and I am so excited to show you guys this stat block. Let's get into it. And a drum roll please, because here we are, without further ado, DM Dungeon Mastery's rework of the Cloud Giant from the 2014 Monster Manual. Going into this, I want you guys to have these things in mind. This is what I intend to be the average commoner Cloud Giant. In fact, there are no commoner Cloud Giants. Cloud Giants are nobles. So I put commoner noble in the tag, even though I know I'm misusing the tag system because you're supposed to put if a creature is like 2 different creature types, but I'm using it to label what I intend those giants to be. So this Cloud Giant is a commoner Cloud Giant. This is what your average Cloud Giant in Cloud Giant society should be. So let's get into it. The first change is the armor class. It is from a 14 up to a 16. It has a silvered breastplate. Now you might be saying, a breastplate doesn't give that much armor class. Well, you're going to see why they have that much armor class in a minute once we get down into the abilities. So I didn't change the hit points. 200 hit points, that's a lot of hit points. 2 giants, the players, if you put 2 Cloud Giants, the players have to get through 400 hit points of health to defeat them. And that's 2 highly intelligent, highly powerful beings that they probably should be level 20 if they even thought about trifling with. Think of giants going forward as end-game creatures. One of them is a boss fight for a group of players. An entire city of them, that's an end-game fight. Think of it like you hit max level, you can't level up anymore, you have all the abilities at your disposal, and now you're going to go into these end-game raids. World of Warcraft style, basically. You have no more levels to gain. That is your only goal, is to like find worthy opponents. They could have beaten the final boss of the campaign and then still have stuff to fight with these late game areas. Like, just, I'm trying to help people get more used to running high level games with these stat blocks, so I'm just essentially scaling everything up on the higher end, because the higher end creatures are really bad against high level characters. Let me stop rambling. The speed, 60 feet of movement speed. They have a huge stride. So if regular character is 30-foot movement speed. I think it makes sense that a huge giant can move at a 60-foot movement speed, literally double the movement speed of a man-sized character. Getting into the next chunk here, I did not make any changes to anything else other than the challenge rating now is a CR 15, which is 2 higher than his fire giant cousin right beneath him. And we have a resistance of cold, lightning, and thunder damage, which I did because if you think about it for a minute, they live in the sky. It's probably very cold in the sky. They should probably be resistant to that. They can control the weather, and lightning and thunder go hand in hand with thunderstorms, really, really destructive weather. If they can control that, they shouldn't be incredibly susceptible to it. I don't want to make them immune, because then that would mean storm giants wouldn't have something to hold over their heads, which they should. And if I make a storm giant stat block, it's going to be even scarier than this, because storm giants don't have humongous societies like cloud giants do. Let's get down to the abilities here. There are some new abilities here. So keen smell, that's the same, didn't touch that, has advantage on perception checks that rely on smell. Ordning's hierarchy, that's from all my other giant stat blocks. Innate spellcasting didn't change. Here's the first DM Dungeon Mastery official trademark change here. Runecast weapons. So the Cloud Giant, if you've looked at my Fire Giant stat block, the Cloud Giant now has an average affinity for rune casting, just like it says in their lore. And they infuse their weapons with, instead of ancient fire runes, ancient thunder runes. So any metal melee weapon they wield deals an extra 2d6 thunder damage on hit. And that counts for ammunition too, so metallic ammunition. So if you give them a bow or something, I kind of have these abilities on here so that you don't have to really edit them too much. You can just interchange out their equipment if you would like to. Here comes the first thing that should have been on the Cloud Giant stat block to begin with. This is called Insurmountable Wealth, okay? The Cloud Giant's immense fortune allows them to infuse their martial weapons and armor with potent magic, meaning they have the best armor and weapons that a fire giant would be able to craft them. And on top of that, their weapon attacks are magical, and they gain a +3 bonus attack to attack and damage rolls, meaning that they have +3 weapons. Yes, you heard that right. The average Cloud Giant has a +3 weapon on them. And on top of that, it's gilded. But anyways, their armor and shield, if you give them a shield, the commoner Cloud Giant, I don't picture walking around with a shield. They're nobles. They're very gaudy, very extravagant. Everything is excessive with them. Think Xerxes from 300, the movie about the Spartans. Xerxes is probably one of the best descriptions I can give you when you think of a Cloud Giant. That's more of an evil-leaning Cloud Giant, because Xerxes is not a good character. He's a villain. He's the adversary. But if you want to think of a good Cloud Giant's personality, think of Hermes from the 1997 The Odyssey. I feel like they would have a bit of a Hermes-like personality, because he's like really tricksy, but he's not evil. He's just playful, and he's a bit chaotic. So Hermes and Xerxes are like the two ends of the spectrum for Cloud Giants. Sorry, I'm rambling a lot. I'm just excited this episode. You get excited, overly emphatic DM Dungeon Mastery today. Okay, yeah, so anyways, back to my point here. They have magic weapons. By the time your party fights them, they should have magic weapons too, so it makes sense that Cloud Giants that are incredibly wealthy, like to the point that it's insurmountable, it makes sense that they have magic items. Now here is the last ability that I gave them. This is completely optional, but I think you should use it. So this is called Ordning of Extravagance. So the Cloud Giants in the actual giant ordning are second from the top. However, inside Cloud Giant Society itself, they have their own ordning. And what this does is it represents that. So dripping in opulence, the Cloud Giants flaunt their immense wealth to assert their superiority amongst their kin. So you can roll on a magic item table that I looked at in my Dungeon Master's Guide, choosing the F, G, or H, and then you roll on that table. They have that item after you roll it, and then additionally roll twice on the 7,500 GP art object table and the 5,000 GP gem table. So that's 4 rolls total, 2 for each. And I put the page numbers in there, and I put optional to remind you don't have to do this if you don't want to, but this is something that will help. But you could even do it if like the players kill the giant, then you can roll it if you want. And it says the giant possesses these items and art objects in its inventory and can use any magic item as if attuned to it. So if you roll on the magic item table and you get an item, they're attuned to it. They have it. It's just they walk around with excessive amounts of jewelry and gold and magic items, and they plus on top of that their armor and their weapon are magical, which I would recommend looking up the sane magic item prices chart and price those things accordingly. I will post a link to that in the description of this video so you can look at that. It's like a homebrew resource. But without further ado, let's get into the actions before my head explodes. Alright, here we are in the actions section. So, multi-attack. The giant makes 2 Morningstar or fist attacks, and it may replace one of these with a stomp or a thunder wave if it's available. We'll get into that stuff, but first let's start off with the main thing that should have been like represented on the Cloud Giant stat block. It just drives me nuts that they didn't have something like this. So, huge gilded Morningstar. So picture this, like pearl-headed Morningstar with golden spikes on it. That's something that a Cloud Giant would use as a weapon. It has a plus 16 to hit because it's a plus 3 magic weapon. It's a plus 3 enchanted Morningstar. It has a 10-foot reach. It does 3d8 piercing damage plus 2d6 thunder damage on a hit. So I think Fire Giants technically out DPS them slightly, but you'll see they have other things that they can do. And then we move on to the aptly named Gem Flecked Boulder. Now this is as if they have boulders that are encrusted in gemstones that were given to them probably from Frost Giants or Fire Giants could have given it to them. The Giants all interact in a hub area, which is usually a Cloud Giant city in the sky. That's what I picture. The Cloud Giants and all the other Giants all come together within the Cloud Giant cities. That's when like the Frost Giants would bring their pelts, the Fire Giants bring their ores, their gemstones that they craft, and I'm representing that with gem-flecked boulders. And these actually knock you prone instead of actually reducing your movement speed. So if you get hit with this, you have to succeed on a DC 21 strength save or you fall prone. I'm probably going to add in there post that even if you get hit with it and you succeed that, your movement speed is still reduced by 5 also. Then we have, instead of a fist attack, a ringed fist attack. So the Cloud Giants have rings all over their fingers and hands. So when they punch you, they're punching you with rings on. It does an additional d6 damage. So it does 4d6 bludgeoning damage instead of 3d6. Moving on to the Stomp. It's the same Stomp for the Stomp enjoyers out there, except the DC to fall prone now is 21. So good luck succeeding that. And remember, this is just one giant that you're fighting. Let's keep it moving here. Keep it moving into Thunder Wave. This is a big ability. This is their recharge ability. So the Cloud Giant slams its hands together, unleashing a deafening torrent of thunderous noise and wind in a 20-foot cone. Each creature in that area must make a DC 19 Constitution saving throw. On a failed save, the creature takes 3d12 thunder damage, is deafened until the end of its next turn, and any creatures concentrating on a spell within 30 feet of the giant, so they don't have to be in that cone, that can hear the blast must make a concentration check with disadvantage. And then it says on a successful save, the creature takes half as much damage and is not deafened. And then I put in flavor text, the thunderous blast can be heard up to 5 miles away and disrupts any flammable objects in the area that aren't worn or carried. So you have to imagine these are giants that their element is the sky, it's weather, it's the clouds. They should be able to conjure up a little localized clap of thunder right next to you that's incredibly loud. And this is the thunder that wakes you up at 3 a.m. and makes you jump out of bed nearly, is what this attack is. But they're using it, they're weaponizing it, essentially. Weaponized jump scare. Moving into the next ability, Wind Aura. This is a Storm King's Thunder variant giant ability that I put on here. So this is takes a full action to do, so the giant's probably going to do this as they're entering combat, not during or before they get into melee range, because they sacrifice a whole turn to use this. The giant commands the very winds to shield and serve, enveloping it in a swirling tempest. The aura is a 10-foot radius sphere that lasts as long as the giant maintains concentration on it, and it's as if it's concentrating on a spell, so it has to make concentration checks when it gets hit. The giant gains a +2 bonus to its armor class against ranged weapon attacks, and all open flames within the aura are extinguished unless they are magical. So it's a pretty cool defensive ability. It's very flavorful of a cloud giant. And then we have Snatch, but I changed Snatch a little bit. So Snatch now states that the giant attempts to grab a small creature or large object and holds on to it. And then now the giants, it explicitly says that the giants can now just pick up large objects. You really could do that before. So if you want to just say that they can use that as an object interaction, which is technically supposed to be a free interaction, you can do that. But if they're picking up a chunk of a fallen building and throwing it, it's probably going to take a lot out of them. But they could still immediately follow up with a fling attack. Keep this in mind, so it's not a whole turn wasted just to pick something up and throw it. But anyways, here's my favorite ability that I came up with for any creature stat block so far, because this is so cloud giant coded, it's not even funny. So basically, this is called Hail of Wealth. So like a hailstorm of wealth. The cloud giant gathers a handful of gold, silver, and platinum coins and hurls them in a 30-foot cone with a powerful gust of wind. Each creature in that area must make a DC 16 Dex save. On a failed save, the creature takes 8d8 bludgeoning damage and is knocked prone. On a successful save, the creature takes half as much damage and is not knocked prone. But I have a little chart underneath that says you roll a d4 to determine the mixture of coins that were thrown. So you can see this little chart here. It's a 1d4, and it's just a different combination of coins that are thrown, and it's a lot because cloud giants throwing change at you, essentially. This is change to them. It's a pittance. It's nothing to them. They'll throw gold at you just to make a statement, essentially, flaunting it. That's going to do it for the actions. And then we're going to move into the bonus actions here, where you're going to see even more unique abilities. Okay, and we're in the final stretch here with the bonus actions. But there might be a surprise after this. I don't know. We'll have to see. Anyways, getting into Crush. The giant has to have a grappled creature to do this, keep in mind. So this is comboing off of the Snatch ability. Or if the giant uses just a grapple check with somebody, he could probably, technically giants auto grapple people, but I wanted to give the players a bit of a chance with a saving throw, because giants would auto grapple a medium-sized creature automatically because they're 2 sizes bigger. That's how the rules as written work. But anyways, the giant crushes you in his hand, and you take 3d6 bludgeoning damage, but you remain held. So he can just do that, and there's no attack roll, it just happens. But he has to have a free hand to do it. Good thing that the Morning Star is only one-handed, though. Thunderous Slam now instead of Smash. So we have the giant spikes a grappled creature into the ground or object nearby with Mighty Force, dealing 4d6 bludgeoning damage. The creature lands prone within 5 feet of the giant, and now must make a DC 21 con save or be stunned until the end of its next turn, and is no longer snatched. Huge creatures should use their huge size to overpower smaller creatures. I think I've hammered that point home with all of my other giant videos. If you're just fighting a creature that can do a multi-attack of 2 weapon swings or throw a boulder. I'm sorry, it's called a rock on the base stat block. It does not feel like you're fighting a giant. I just gotta hammer that point home a little bit, because I feel like some people don't get it, or they think maybe I'm just trying to make monsters TPK players. I'm not, because this is not something that you should just throw on your players suddenly. This is something that you tease in the beginning of the campaign with like a floating cloud giant fortress overhead, and the cloud giants are hailing boulders down on a city, and your players have to escape this city now, and then they have to deal with the fallout of that and try to figure out, why did the cloud giants attack the city that we started off in? Like, what is happening in this campaign? Think outside of the box. Don't just think this is just going to kill a player character. That's not fair. Just had to put that out there, because I know some people get a little worked up, but there's also a lot of power creep coming with this new edition of Dungeons & Dragons, and I'm here to save all of my dungeon masters who are lamenting about the power creep. Just like Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, except this is an entire edition of power creep. So, let's move into the final ability here. Arrogant Slap. Very Cloud Giant-like. The Cloud Giant, with a sneer of disdain, delivers a contemptuous slap to the creature it's grappling, so it requires 2 free hands to do this, so he has to put his Morning Star away to do this, or have no weapon equipped. But he can sheath his Morning Star as a free object interaction. The giant slaps a creature it has grappled with a ringed-fingered backhand, and then the creature takes 6d8 plus 8 bludgeoning damage, and it has to succeed on a DC 16 Charisma saving throw. On a failure, the creature is humiliated, giving it disadvantage on all attack rolls against the giant. The creature may repeat the saving throw at the end of each turns, ending the effect on itself on a success. And then it says the creature is dropped within 5 feet of the giant, landing prone. That is, without a shadow of a doubt, I think one of the best ways to flavor a basic Cloud Giant stat block, in my opinion. Don't shoot the messenger. I'm just saying. But I love Cloud Giants. Now remember, another thing, Cloud Giants are not evil inherently. I had a Cloud Giant in my campaign named Celestius, who was not evil. He actually helped the player characters because they traveled to a Cloud Giant city in attempt to talk with a Cloud Giant king, because the Hill Giant servants were running amok down below, and not understanding giant culture, they attempted to approach the city only to be harried by 2 giants riding on massive chariots through the sky, landing on this massive gargantuan sky bridge, and it would have caused a TPK, but Celestia stepped in, and he, "Since I saved you, you will work with me as my serfs and fight in the arena since I saved your life." They don't have to be evil either. Cloud Giants actually are more civilized. They are the most civilized giant out of all the giants. They are the most versatile, most fun, easy way to slot in a giant into any situation, to make a giant a good guy, to, if there's a world-ending threat, like, let's say we go back to my Hydra video and you have that massive Hydra attacking a city, maybe your players need some extra help, so they have to go talk to the Cloud Giants and beg them for help. But anyways, let's get into the surprise of the video, and I'm going to show you a variant Cloud Giant stat block that is a Cloud Giant Sentinel. He is a guard of the city. Alright, here we are with the Cloud Giant Sentinel. Now, there's a couple changes here. So this Cloud Giant has a shield, and he has better armor, so you can see immediately that his armor class is 21. Much stronger and more shielded than the other Cloud Giant, so if you thought it couldn't get worse, oh yes it can. But remember, I'm not making these with the intention of you throwing this at your player characters and saying, "Whoa, sorry guys, looks like you got TPK'd, better luck next time." This is something that your players have to prepare for. Like I keep saying, I don't make these creatures with the intent to TPK. I make them to enhance the world that your characters are playing in by making threats actually seem like threats and not just, well, we can decimate them and stat check them when we're level 20. continuing on, so they have magic scale mail and a magic shield. So +2 scale mail, +2 shield brings their AC to 21. Cloud giants are extraordinarily rich. Shouldn't be an issue with anybody, hopefully, that I did that. But you could always remember, you can always take this stuff away if you disagree with it. This is just something I created for fun. So we will move down. Everything in the ability section is the same, except this giant has the Sentinel feat, with the addition, because he's a giant, it's when a creature within 15 feet of him attacks a target other than the giant that doesn't also have the Sentinel feat. So that means 2 of these right next to each other can't proc Sentinel off of each other and attack each other. So keep that in mind, but it makes them look like defenders of the city. And typically these guys are riding humongous chariots that are like circling the city. At least mine were, so I'm just trying to give you ideas. I picture cloud giants to be very Greek looking. We'll move into the actions here, and most of the actions didn't change. I did take out some of the more noble-esque cloud giant abilities, like the wealth hail. But you will see they have a huge gilded spear, and they can make 2 attacks with it. So it looks a little wordy, but unfortunately you have to word things like that with Dungeons & Dragons. I tried to cut down the wording as much as I could, but essentially if you're one-handing it, it's 3d6 plus 2d6 thunder damage, or if you're two-handing it, it's 3d8 plus 2d6 thunder damage. They have a shield. They probably want to use their shield as city guards, essentially. And then they have if they hit with a spear attack, they have a shield bash attack as a bonus action, which just lets them bash something with their shield and shove it back 10 feet instead of 5, because they have the shield master feat also. Forgot to mention that. You don't see it show up in the abilities, but I took the shield master feat and I gave them Sentinel. Their shield bash, instead of dealing no damage and just shoving something back, does 1d4 damage and shoves something back, so it's just a little bit of additional damage, because it makes sense that a 20 plus foot tall entity slamming a gigantic metal shield into your face would probably deal some damage. And then their last unique ability here, we have the Gilded Greatbow. Now this is much lower chance to hit. This is only a +9. But it does 3d8 piercing damage plus 2d6 thunder damage, and then on a hit, the creature has to succeed a DC 14 strength save or be pushed back 15 feet away from the giant. So they can, and this has a range of 300 feet up to 1,200 feet. These are giant longbows that they are firing. I don't know if you've ever played a Souls game, but there's always like usually a giant with a bow, and or if you've played Elden Ring even, the big golems with the bows, they fire them and it blows you backwards when you get hit with it. Picture that in the hands of these giants. Yeah, that was my idea with that there, and that's going to do it for the variant stat block. Actually, sorry, there's reactions we have to look at really quickly. So their reactions are shield defense. The giant can add its shield AC bonus of 4 to any dex saving throw it makes against a spell or harmful effect that targets only it. And then the shield reaction, if the giant is subjected to an effect that allows it to make a dex save to take only half damage, it can use its reaction to take no damage and succeed on the save by bringing its shield in front of it. So it's the rogue ability. I think it's called evasion, essentially, but they have to use a reaction for this instead of it just being a passive. So with all of that, I think it's time to move into the outro. Alright, we survived the Cloud Giants. We made it to the outro. Appreciate you all for making it here if you're still watching. The Cloud Giants are definitely one of the coolest creatures in Dungeons & Dragons, and I hope that I did them justice enough for a lot of you guys. If you use them in your games, I would love to hear about it. I get so hyped when I hear, like, you used one of my monsters in your game and your players loved it. Leave some of that stuff in the comments, or come join my Discord channel. Link is in the description, and tell me about it in my Discord channel. I'm in there. I'll interact with you guys whenever I'm not busy. I try to be active every single day. Yeah, man, I'm having so much fun with this channel. I'm so glad to see that people are enjoying the content that I'm making, so thank you guys so much. This is DM Dungeon Mastery, and I am signing out. I will see you guys on the next one.